I stepped into the forgotten desert ruins tonight, chasing the final, frantic journal entries of a lost archaeological expedition. The ancient stone fortress stood desolate, half buried under the massive, shifting sand dunes under a freezing blue hour sky. My vintage lantern flickered weakly, its pale light barely piercing through the thick, unnatural rolling mist creeping over the rubble. The expedition's base camp was entirely abandoned, their heavy canvas tents torn to ribbons from the inside out. I discovered their research notes scattered across the cracked floor, filled with frantic scribbles about a voice in the wind. They wrote of a primordial entity, the Jinn, a terrifying force of nature born not of flesh, but smokeless fire. As an investigator of the occult, I smiled at the folklore, confident that I was the predator hunting a simple mystery. But the atmosphere shifted instantly. The air grew suddenly freezing cold, yet smelled intensely of sulfur and burnt wood. On the damp sand, I discovered fresh, heavy footprints that began as human boot prints, but morphed into charred hooves. A low, vibrating hum echoed through the decaying walls, accompanied by the distinct sound of crackling kindling behind me. I held up my flashlight, watching dust particles float erratically, as if caught in an invisible, rising thermal current. That was when I realized the horrifying truth. The clues weren't left behind by accident. I was being lured inside. I spun around with a sudden whip pan, but the desolate, empty alleyway of stone was completely vacant. Then, a shadow unnaturally detached itself from a cracked pillar, standing completely still while the mist swirled violently around it. Cold dread seized my chest. I was no longer the hunter. I was the helpless prey trapped in their domain. I began to back away slowly, my handheld camera shaking violently. As the flickering fluorescent lanterns of my camp died out, the entity began to move, its silhouette floating inches above the ground, gliding effortlessly without making a single sound. I ran blindly through the pitch-black corridors, the air turning from freezing cold to a suffocating, blistering heat. I collapsed against a crumbling wall, cornered as the massive shadow loomed over me, its head twitching at an unnatural angle. Twin glowing crimson embers opened in the darkness, staring directly through me with an ancient, malevolent intelligence. It did not attack my body. Instead, it reached toward my microphone, leaving a charred handprint and an eternal burning curse on this tape, before vanishing.